Honestly, so at this point, like agency comes first, and like my grades are definitely showing that. I was always like a decent student through college, but once I'm seeing the potential and everything for the agency, like homework is the last priority, right? It's all the client stuff, and then at the end of the day, if I can get to my homework, I'll do it.
All right. We're back for another student interview. We've got a very juicy one today. We've got Patrick, founder of O Media. And we're going to get straight into the juice. We're going to dissect Patrick's journey, dissect his habits, really pick his brain and his strategies that have taken him to well over 10K per month. Before we do that, Patrick, for those listening in, can you tell them a bit about where you were at? Let's just say, a few months ago before you had your big breakthrough, where you were at in terms of maybe, revenue, income, what you were doing, and now where you're at with your agency.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically almost a year ago, I pretty much started off within the content creation space, and I was just a freelance videographer. It's more for fun. I'm a full-time student still, and at the time I was looking for ways to just bring in some extra money. And then 6 months doing some freelance projects, pulling in maybe like 1 to 2K a month, just nothing crazy. I really wanted to find a way that's kind of related to that and build a whole business around it. I didn't want to be a videographer. So that's when I found Jaime's course. But I joined back in May, and it was probably a slow process from the start. But once things started ramping up, it's like a hockey stick growth where, come September, October, November, everything started to click, and that's when all of a sudden I'm jumping up to what November was our best month of 12K in November, and December should be significantly better. So it's all about catching that momentum, and it was like there was parts during the summer where I just was doubting everything, making less than I was doing the freelance videography, because I almost like stopped that for a bit to focus 100% on this, and I was like, man, what am I doing? So I was just a full-time student pulling in a little bit of money doing freelance video, and now I'm at a much more comfortable spot.
One of the things that I'm a massive fan of is this idea of taking a step back to take 5 steps forward, and that's really what you did, because I think one of the great points that you mentioned there is the fact that it's such a hockey stick growth, right? I believe, I don't know when you hit like 1 to 2K. When was that, like the first client, would you say?
The first in August. August was the first client, so basically was all summer, really with nothing. Other than a few video projects here and there, but literally just spent like my whole summer, all my buddies, all my friends, like I study finance here at university, and everyone's like getting these cool investment banking jobs and internships, and I'm like, nah, I'm not gonna do that. I want to start my own company. I'm like really into the entrepreneurship grind, and so my buddies were making thousands of dollars, having sick jobs as bankers, and I was like sitting at my home doing outreach. I'm like, a lot of times I was doubting myself, but I'm thrilled I did, and I think that, I don't know, I fell in love with this space, so no regrets there.
And then, so you signed this first client, right? And then I think it was in a month that you scaled to 12K per month, correct? Like it was last month?
It was August was the first. It was a little bit more gradual. From that first client, I really like tweaked a lot of the services we're doing, built out the offers a little more. And let's see, August was first client. September was like significant amount of growth. And then like November is really when things like took off. Like October, I was like confident in everything. And then November, I don't know, it felt like November, like it was just every call I got on, everything I offered, there was inbound people based off content I was putting out. And it was just from there, like things are just growing really quick. So,
So essentially, this November you added like 5, 6, 7K to the revenue.
Yeah. I think it was 7. Yeah.
Okay, 7K. That's a pretty good month.
Very happy about it.
Patrick, let's talk a bit about the differences in Patrick's, right? From Patrick that was doing videography to the Patrick then that started his agency and kind of struggled a little bit. Obviously, you were putting in the work, and it would just the fruits of the labor would show later down the line as that's been the case, right? But let's talk about the Patrick in those first initial months and the Patrick now, what do you think are the core differences? You know, you mentioned a little bit about you tweaked your offer, you made it better, and it just seemed like it just clicked with your sub niche within the e-com space. What do you think are some of the key differences there between the Patrick that in the first initial months and the Patrick now?
Yeah, so first few months I was super robotic and very lacked any sort of discipline, right? So I mean I had some discipline, but from where I am now, kind of that mentality of like come hell or high water, like I would do outreach or build everything out, and I'd stop for a few weeks, or I'd lose faith in the work. And so really early on, I would be really discouraged. I've hopped on calls with you, being like, you know, I don't know, like kind of saying like, how do you deal with this doubt when you're putting in all this work? And if you're used to like a job where you're getting a paycheck, and you know, no matter how many hours you're putting in, you're obviously going to get paid, to something where, you know, it feels like you're literally slaving away for $0 at the start. Like that's literally what it feels like. My mentality around the work was like really negative. But now like I'm so separated from the result, and that like before I was like, okay, I'm not making enough money. Kind of this like scarcity mentality. That's really what it is. And then now I'm like, just have so much trust in the process, so much trust in just showing up, putting in the outreach, putting myself out there. And when I really shifted from overly focusing on the result, which is like the money and everything, to just like the small steps every single day, like that's really what changed for me. And so, yeah, I think building that abundance mentality, building that discipline, and building that kind of optimism was huge for me. And the Patrick before also was just like an employee, freelancer, like didn't understand systems, processes, how to hire, all that stuff. Like I was just like doing everything myself, and now I'm like taking a back seat, feel like an actual business owner, and don't feel like I'm an employee to the companies I serve. So that was one thing that really helped me out, and what I've really developed is now, you know, it's that shift from like a self-employed freelancer to a business owner. I'm still on that track, but in terms of business, that's the most significant change I've seen.
And we'll dive all into, you know, your systems, your hiring processes. But one of the things that I think you did well was you did it in a smart way, right? A lot of the sales funnels, you know, we mentioned, you know, we talked about in the program, are automated. And one of the things that I think you did really well and you really capitalize on is the profile funnel, right? This idea of creating content so that, yes, you're doing outbound, right? You're reaching out, but then you mentioned that you started getting inbound leads, right? All the content that you had produced, all the authority you had built online was translated into people coming to you now. Are there any tips for those watching? Are there any tips that you would give for when creating content online, and some of the massive benefits that you've seen when it comes to signing clients?
Yeah, I think for me, one of the biggest things that my goal was when I started putting out content was, you know, I think I didn't want to just be like a copy paste of what a lot of other people were doing. And so I wanted to build some sort of authenticity that was related to the niche, what I was really focusing on, which is fitness. And like, that's still my goal, is to become that like go-to guy in the fitness space for these types of services. And so showing that I was, you know, very much interested in the fitness lifestyle, going to the gym, health, all that stuff, like showing that and kind of communicating my work ethic, brands would like messaging me like, hey, love the content you're producing, like would you be willing to create content for us, will you be like asking me to do like certain things, and then I'd be like, hey, like do you need email marketing, do you need paid ads? Like it's almost like they came in at first more of like an influencer type of approach, but then after like a call and really communicating that I'm not just here to just take videos or photos with their products or whatever and have a discount code, that I'm like genuinely interested in growing their brand, that was like an interesting shift. So with content, just put it out there, be consistent with it, like just keep putting it out. There's different ways of doing it. You don't need to be in front of a camera. You can be writing content on LinkedIn. You can be posting on Facebook groups or Facebook on your personal Facebook page. But just doing it, because when people click on your profile, when you're sending an Instagram DM, when you're sending an email, like people are going to check you out and be like, what is this guy up to? Mm-hmm. And if you're a real person, you don't look like a robot, because every brand has those bots in their Instagram DMs, right? Everyone has those like classic messages. Probably get them, tens of them a day. and that if you click in, it's like, hey, this guy's a cool guy. He's into digital marketing. He's into e-commerce. He's into fitness. Let's hop on a call. I think that was super beneficial for me. So yeah, definitely if you're in a niche where you're genuinely interested in it and you can communicate that, people love that because they'll connect with you immediately.
100%, and that's exactly what I was going to say, right? Like, don't look like a robot, but also look like someone who actually cares about their space, right? Someone who's passionate about whatever clients you're servicing. And I think that's one of the massive advantages and edges that you had over other agencies. The fact that you were laser focused into one single sub niche, which is one of the main things. One of the things that we talk about in the mentorship, right? The power of laser focus into one sub niche. Are there any benefits that you've seen from that, whether it's on sales goals, whether it's building those relationships where fitness has come up and it's just been so easy for you to get into that rhythm, to get into those conversations, to talk about things that the prospect cares about or knows about? Have you seen any advantage to that?
That's like the biggest thing, right? So I think from beginning when I hopped on those first few sales calls, I was like so strict to the script. I'd be shaking, like trying to read the script, have it swiping between windows, making sure I have everything up. And then I realized just like be yourself, have the idea of the scripts, like have the idea of what you want to say, communicate how you want to deliver it. But like if people can connect with you and like you come off as a friend, like I've had multiple calls where it started off as like they're kind of like skeptical, kind of like a sales kind of relationship. And by the end, we're talking about how much they lifted at their workout. Like literally my first client was like, we like, it started off sales, went into the details, everything was good. But like we were talking about stuff like in the niche, like lifting, powerlifting, bodybuilding, all that stuff.
Did he bench more than you though, Patrick?
Oh man, he unfortunately did, but he might be juicing.
You let him have it. You let him have it. Right? He's the client.
Oh yeah.
You gotta let him have it.
Oh yeah. I'm gassing.
Not the squats though. Not the squats.
No. No one can beat my leg day. But I think that's huge, and I think that that's what my focus is going to be moving forward. Is like having a deep understanding of the fitness space, kind of the health and supplement space, like. Yeah, I think people love that, and it's a very when you choose a niche, that's people are passionate about it. Whether it's like whatever niche you choose, people are passionate about it. They'll talk to you your ear off, and so like even beyond the sales calls, the meetings, when you have the client, the meetings, the checking in, like one of my clients is a young dude, and like we're sending each other like SoundCloud remix and playlists. Like we're like friends now. We're like, this is a sick gym like playlist, like go listen to it. And we're on like a texting basis. Like that's the relationships I want to build in my agency. Like I don't want to just like try to make a quick buck and get out of there. Like I'm trying to work with companies and like have a lasting impact on these companies. So
not only that, but I'm sure you've found that the cool thing about being in a specific sub niche, especially one like fitness, but really any sub niche, right, is the fact that these are tight-knit communities of people that are very passionate about what they do, and they probably know other fitness founders, right? And so like if they get along with you, you're gonna be the guy, right? Has that happened to you where like there's been a few referrals?
Yeah. So that's like the best thing ever. We had that same client basically has two other buddies that are in the supplement space, and they're I've hopped on a bunch of calls with them, and they're kind of unqualified right now just because they're starting out, but we're hoping to work with them come 2022. And yeah, same sort of thing. I've had kind of word of it's surprising like how word of mouth spreads, and how like like you said, these founders like are connected with other founders. And like if they have these like mastermind groups or whatever they're talking, if they're hopping on Zoom calls a week, like I hired this dude Pat, he's really good at he launched our paid ads and email marketing, and then people are hitting me up and asking about it. So like some of the inbound leads have come that way. So yeah, I've already had that experience, and I think that's where like the growth really happens. I feel like is like at first it feels like you're trying to put yourself out there sending cold emails. But then once you get the word of mouth going, it's like momentum really starts to build, and then that's when like I think growing to $10,000 to $50,000 or whatever a month, that's where really it's gonna be more inbound, it's gonna be more word of mouth. It's not like I'm gonna be grinding cold email outreach to get like 10 more clients or whatever. So
it gets really, really fun when that's the case, right? And the thing is, it's not that's not really the case if you're building an agency that is a broad agency, even an e-commerce agency, right? If you start out with an e-commerce agency, sure, it's going to be easier the next year. Sure, 2 years after that, it's going to be easier, but not to the extent of ease that starting with a sub niche is, right? Because when you become the authority in a specific sub niche and you slowly become the go-to guy in the fitness space, in the supplement space, in whatever space you're in, right? It just gets so easy. And you don't have to wait that long, right? Because it's a much smaller space.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And what was I gonna say? Yeah, and to go off that, like even like when you build relationships with these companies, it's funny. Like I think I think technically 3 job offers to move and like work with these people as an employee. And I'm like, yeah, like that'd be great, but like no, that doesn't make any sense at all. Like, I don't want to be an employee. I'm pretty much like unemployable. But it's like funny, like you build a good reputation, they see your work ethic, they see your passion, like they're gonna want you on your team, which is just such a funny like thing to have happen. And I've literally had, I think three job offers. They're like, hey, once you graduate college, like why don't you come work for me? And they have no idea how much I'm actually making with my agency. They might even think they're my only client, but it would make no financial sense to ever do that. Yeah. But no, it's so super funny.
Bringing it back a little bit, right, and going to those initial stages, right? What was that first call like for you? The first call that you ever booked for your fitness agency? Yeah,
so the first ever call was it was like some sort of like. It was like a type, kind of like a foam roller, so like some sort of like fitness massage thing, and I booked them like the first or second week of doing outreach. So like immediately I had faith in the systems, and that's not going to happen for everyone, but like it was just pretty cool that happened. But anyway, they were just like down in the dumps kind of brand, and like they were just like really negative about everything going on, and so they were kind of like desperate for any sort of insight, and like I was very, like I mentioned before, I was shaking on the call, like really stressed out, really following the script to the T. But even still, like I brought them value. Things didn't really work out as I wanted to. Some mistakes on my end and the way I approached it, kind of just some rookie mistakes. But like that experience was like, okay, this works. So that first call, it actually was 2 calls. It got them onto the strategy call, was great, but
this was like $1 million brand, or?
Oh no, so we can dive into that one. That was actually the second one.
Let's I want to hear how this one ends though, because I think there's a lot of takeaways for people that are jumping on this initial calls.
Sure, yeah. So one thing that I would say, like with the first call, right, is like I did like I spent way too much time like doing an audit and like really understanding the whole brand, which is fine. Like now I can just hop into a ads manager, hop into a brand, and it takes like 5-10 minutes just to like point out a few things to provide value. But like I literally spent like hours. I was like getting mentally prepped, like over the top, right? Just because I was like so like scared of it. But yeah, when I hopped on the call, I gave them a bunch of good insight. I don't think they were that qualified at the end of the day, and it just didn't work out. But I think they stepped away with value. I pretty much ripped them apart. And hopefully they stepped away with value. I probably wouldn't have been a client I want to work with, but just that first call, ripping that Band-Aid off of the first call was super important. And and then every single call you do, it just becomes so much easier. For now, like quick check at their ads manager, quick check their social media, see what they're up to, and then I can just hop on. It's really, really natural.
Mm-hmm. And then, one of the first few calls that you had was with this massive company in the fitness space. What was that like? What was the, because you still hadn't beaten the kind of the initial nerves, right, that you get when you start jumping on sales calls, which is an inherent part of the journey. What was that experience like? And what sort of impact did that have on your journey? And the reason why I want to touch on that is because I always say that a lot of people just look at the money in the bank account as the main KPI, right? They don't see progress as jumping on calls with massive prospects, getting a bunch of no's, right? As seeing what offers resonate. So yeah, to the question, what was that experience like, and what were some of the limiting beliefs or roadblocks that you benefited from that call?
Yeah, absolutely. So the brand itself, I'm not going to obviously say their names, but there's 2 brands with the same name in the fitness space. So they have the same name, and I actually prepared a whole audit for the different company that I was actually hopping on with. And I even like started the call talking about the other brand's product line and everything. It was super bad, like terrible. But I was like connecting with the founder, or not the founder, who was their CMO, because they were a big brand. I didn't even realize how big they were. And so I'm kind of just walking through my stuff, feeling good. And then immediately, like I switched, and I was like, I know the basics of like how they can improve, right? So how can I bring value to them? And the CMO was telling me they do everything in house, and I was communicating the benefits of maybe outsourcing to an agency. I went through all their ads, and like I pivoted really quick and said like, oh, my mistake, you have the exact same name as this other brand. So dove into them, and then when I was asking them the qualifying questions, like how much you're spending on ads, how much, like all that stuff, like, oh yeah, we're spending like hundreds of thousands on ads, like all this stuff. And I was like, oh, like what did I get myself into? And this was on the demo call, and I connected with the guy. He loved what I was saying. He could tell I was passionate, and that's the other thing. Like I get people tell me a lot on demo calls, like they see how passionate I am, and like that like really gets them. Like when I talk about like a fitness brand or fitness company, like I get like super hyped up. Like I'm not just like a robot. So that's something you can take away. Try to be like pumped up about the brand. But yeah, he liked my person. He liked everything I was saying, and we got him onto a strategy call. And I was like, I had that mentality where it's like I already like felt like I signed them. Terrible mentality to have. You talk about that where you're just like going into it like, oh, I'm gonna make all this money, whatever. And no, it ended up not working out. But yeah, they sent me like $500 worth of product. It was kind of a fun experience, and it was like, okay, I can hold a conversation with this guy who's he's actually running the ads for the company pretty much. And I can still provide value as someone that's new to the space. I mean, I do my research, I understand everything, but like, he still have valuable insight, and we're still connected on LinkedIn. Who knows? I might even hit him up now that I have some momentum and be like, hey, let's hop on a call. So, it was cool, and it gave me that confidence boost very early on.
Good stuff. Shifting gears a little bit, right? You mentioned that you're still in college, in university, yes. Which is it's a very normal thing, right? But a lot of people say, well, I can't do agency, like I'm still in uni. When I finish uni, I'll do it. Blah blah. How would you say you've managed to structure things and balance things to make both? I don't know if uni is working for you, but at least to do a decent enough job at uni. And also run a widely successful fitness e-com agency.
Yeah. So, honestly, so at this point, like agency comes first, and like my grades are definitely showing that. I was always like a decent student through college, but once I'm seeing the potential and everything for the agency, like homework is the last priority, right? It's all the client stuff, and then at the end of the day, if I can get to my homework, I'll do it. But obviously, when you're starting out, like it's like you might have that doubt. You might be like, oh, I should still prioritize school, or you have your parents' pressures, whatever. Building a routine around this is when I'm going to do agency work, this is when I'm going to get school work done is super important. Like for me, I structured this whole semester, I only take night classes. So basically, I'm just grinding my agency from like 8 a.m. to 4 or 5 p.m. and then I go and do 2 or 3 hours of classes. So if you can have the flexibility to kind of spread it out like that, I'd say definitely do that. And then in college, like you're gonna want to go party, you're gonna want to go out with your friends. Like I just don't do that at all. Like the last party I went to was probably over a year ago, and like just because I'm so locked in. Like Friday nights are like, I love Friday nights to work on my agency. Like that's my favorite time to work on my agency, just because like no one else is working, no clients hitting me up. My apartment's quiet, none of my buddies are here. They're all out drinking, and I can just grind. And I feel like you kind of feel like a beast when you're doing that. So
you get the same sort of feeling when you go to the gym like Friday night. Yes. I don't know if you've ever done that, and you look around and there's not that many people, right? And it just feels really nice. It just it's just a better pump,
Yeah. No, you just boost your ego too. You just feel like you feel like you're better than others, which is you're not. You're just going at a different time, but whatever. Take that momentum and run with it.
how have you? Was it easy for you to build that discipline? And the reason why I want to get into that is because you've got a Joko poster which
Yes,
I read, and obviously you're really into the fitness space, right? Are there any like certain principles or certain habits and routines that you've built in your fitness life that you're really into that have translated into business? If so, what are some of those key principles and traits that you've developed as you've developed your fitness life?
Yeah. So there's a few things here. I mean, in terms of my routines, getting up early is just like a classic, just solid way to start. Waking, it doesn't have to be 4:30 a.m. like Jocko or a lot of other people would be like, wake up at 4:30 for success. Like, none of these things will like directly attribute to success, but what it does is like it gets you in that mindset, it gets you up, gets you going, it gets you getting to work earlier. So in terms of how I built my discipline, I think it started with fitness. I started out as a super skinny kid and just like needed to put on some muscle, and that's probably where the discipline started. And then come school and come the agency stuff, I was like, okay, if the same way that you go to the gym and you want to put on muscle, you're not gonna take a day off. Like, you're gonna keep showing up. You're not gonna feel like it no matter what. Just show up, get the work done. Two, like embracing hard stuff, I think is like really important. And whether that's, for example, if a client, once your agency continues to scale, like there's gonna be a bunch of fires you have to put out. Maybe a client has a complaint about something or whatever, and instead of just like trying to avoiding that or being scared of that, just like embracing it, just like eating that up and just solving it in an effective manner. I think that's also an element of kind of mentality that kind of translates. But I think that like it keeps you, when you have your routine, when you have your systems down, when you have your morning routine down, or you have your nightly routine or whatever that you have in place, like every day's a win if you can just bang those out. Like, if you can get that stuff done, the stuff that you can control, you feel very mentally stable. And like when I talked about before how I felt like really like questioning the work, like that was where I was. Like, I didn't really have routines. I was kind of all over the place, really stressed out, really like scarce mentality. And then now it's like, get my routines done. Like, I feel like a beast. I'm getting my stuff done. I'm bettering myself, and I'm showing up better to my agency. So yeah, I'm kind of jumping around, but in general, like routines, having some structure in place is super critical. And your clients will see that when you're hopping on calls and talking with them.
There's a lot of good stuff there, man. And I'm glad you mentioned a few of those things, right? Because as you mentioned earlier in the interview, one of the main things that you have to learn to do, whether you're trying to get big in the gym or whether you're trying to build a business, is detaching from the outcome, right? Like, you just focus on the actions, and when you focus on the actions, you also feel much better, right? Because like the results will come when you focus on the value, when you focus on adding value to people, when you focus on building really cool shit. And becoming the number one in your space, the results are going to come, the money's going to come, right? You just have to be a little bit patient. The same way that when you don't go to the gym for a month and you have your dream physique, right? It's a constant work in progress. So that number one, and key takeaways from a few things that you just said, right, is being able to solve problems. Right? Keeping a cool head and just looking at problems and be like, okay, how can I solve this? Right? Not stressing over it, not identifying with the problems. Like, it's not personal, it's professional, right? You just have to like overcome these problems and work at it. And I think the third thing that you mentioned as well is just being consistent with the routines, like just showing up every single day. And if you chip away every single day at it, right, you say no to things that you shouldn't be doing, or you have a much better balance with those things. The results are pretty much inevitable when you have the right guidance, when you have the right roadmap.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, I can agree more.
Are there any things that have allowed you or have made it easier for you to say no to those things that distract you from your goal? Like anything that you like told your friends, any way that you sort of navigate relationships and friendships for those listening that are struggling with that?
Yeah, I honestly, like, this is, I remember you mentioned something in the, like the latter part of the mentorship, but also if you have friends that like really believe in you and are really like into, like, believe in what you're doing, just like maybe family. For example, I have a girlfriend, maybe we can dive into that as well. That's like a whole other balance game there. But like when you have people like that, friends, family, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, if they're truly like believe in you, they don't even need to truly believe in you. If they just want the best for you, they will understand that you might need to make sacrifices for, or work hard and work Friday nights, work whatever, because you have this greater goal. So being clear, like my friends, like they used to always like invite me out or be like, why don't you come out or whatever. They don't even ask that question anymore. They know, they're like, oh, Pat's grinding. Pat hit 10K, like he needs to, or whatever. He needs to be like locked in. So there becomes that understanding, and you start to just keep going no matter what, and the people around you will understand that and support you. And even if they don't support you, keep going at it, because there's going to be people that won't support you or not believe in you, and like you just need to keep focused, and just mitigating distractions is like just another battle that is critical in this process.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of, obviously you mentioned relationships, right? How do you balance that with your girlfriend, and are there any certain conversations that you guys have had, any certain mindsets or anything that you guys have implemented to make that easier for both of you? Yeah,
I think, well, one, I personally like couldn't be in a relationship if it really impeded on my own goals or my own like dreams. Like it would just be a no-brainer. Would have to break it off. But like when you communicate with your partner and they are also have their own goals as well, it's like that's the best. Like if you're with someone and maybe they don't have the best goals and they're kind of always relying on you to hang out or do stuff, you're kind of like always getting those tasks, kind of getting nagged, versus if he or she has their goals, they have their shit together and they're getting after it too. That's the best, because like my partner is working on her own goals, and we mutually understand that like, hey, we're not going to talk to each other all day or all week even, and like maybe we have a phone call every few days or whatever, but like during the week we're locked in, we're getting stuff done, and then maybe Saturday night we can go out to a nice dinner, hang out, and enjoy that time. But being super clear and having them understand why you're doing the work, and that you're not just avoiding them, and you're not just playing Xbox or being with your friends or doing stupid shit. Like if you're putting in the work and they understand that, you'll be good to go. And I would say if they're not, and if they're really just doubting you and putting you in a bad mental spot, might be time to split up with that person and be single. But yeah.
Speaking of focusing on yourself, one of the things that you told me before joining the mentorship was that you were very, there was a certain, probably very healthy degree of skepticism, right, around investing into yourself, programs, courses. What made you decide on my mentorship specifically? And what was that thought process behind that? And what was the process to saying, let me invest into myself, and specifically this mentorship?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I had that kind of mentality going into it, that the info products, courses, whatever, that there's some bad players in the space. Like I've watched like those fake guru YouTube videos of people like reacting to that type of stuff, and like I kind of had that like negative mentality. But one, I started to understand that like I need to learn a certain amount of skills to get to the next area I want to get to. And so how am I going to do that? One, my university is not delivering on that at all. And, I'm like, great, I can learn a little basic finance stuff, but like when it comes to building a business or anything entrepreneurial, I need to start reaching out to people that have done it and that have the steps, that have been through the ringer already. And so, when I was kind of like shopping around, kind of trying to figure out how I can get into the space, I was looking for someone that, was already, that seemed authentic, seemed genuine, and then you were killing the TikTok content game and YouTube game, and so like start consuming your content, and then eventually I was like, I gotta book a call, and even still was skeptical on the call, still even on the call with you, I was like, I don't think I want to make that investment. But when you understand that, when you really start to think like, when you make this investment, the upside is really high if you put in the work and you take it seriously. And so, I say this to my friends or something, like they say, oh, invest in this stock or invest in this crypto, whatever. I'm like, I would rather invest in myself, learn this skill, and sell it for tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars in the long run, because that's going to benefit me. And so, now, like after going through your mentorship, my whole mindset around courses, info products, and that stuff has shifted from, will this give me a skill that will propel me forward and I will reap higher benefits than the payment? And like once you're in that mentality, like now I'm like eating up as much information as I can, and I almost just like the price or whatever is like not that big of a deal for me. Which is like, I'm not trying to sound like kind of like, I don't know, I'm not trying to like flex that. I'm just saying like, I understand that if I make this financial investment and take into account all those skills and everything, like I can make more than what that I might be charging right now, even if I'm in a bad financial spot. So yeah.
Yeah. What were some of the most powerful things that you took away from the mentorship? Some of the most helpful and favorite things that you saw in the mentorship?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, as someone that had zero experience and had zero knowledge of an agency at all, like this gave me everything that I needed, right? It gave me the outreach systems. It gave me the hiring process. It gave me the understanding of copywriting and running ads and service delivery, and as well as communication. So like it was so holistic in the sense that like everything you need is pretty much there. And then when it goes into like the exact skills that like really like helped me out is one, I guess how to run email campaigns and outreach for yourself. Like I had no idea how to do that. The benefits of setting up automations and not having to write every single email, because in the past, like with video clients or whatever, I'd be sending every single email, like spending an hour on one prospect, maybe sending out 5 emails a week, versus setting up an automation that actually works for you is super cool. And then also the hiring process, like I was blown away about like how that whole thing worked. And like I was like, oh my God, you have to interview this amount of people. But when you're actually looking for that like go-to A player like person, you're gonna have to like survey the market and weigh people out and see what they're up to. And I've attributed that to when I was interviewing my media buyer, that same exact process. I did that with my kind of creative guys that I now have, my video editors and other people. So moving forward, my hiring process will be probably pretty damn similar if I'm hiring for a copywriter or VA or whoever else I plan to take on in the future. So yeah, and also I love the last part of like just the mentality type stuff. I think you have a good mentality where you said like just take a year or just like spend a year on this, and like that is such a good mentality to have. Just like having the patience and just getting after it and having faith in the work is like, if you're having doubts right now of what you're doing, you just got to keep pushing away, because you will see the benefits if you continue to put in the work and iterate your strategy.
Is there anything that you would tell your younger self or the Pat that started a few months ago, that started the agency? What's like one piece of advice that you'd give him?
One piece of advice I would give him is to remove myself from the noise a lot. I think a lot of people try to connect with other agencies and like really talk, it's all this BS, and you like hop on networking calls or whatever. Like just shut off the noise and just like focus and just like get locked into what you have to do to move the ball forward, right? Like I always like look at like running a business as like I don't know if it's like some Greek mythology or whatever. It's like a dude like rolling up a boulder up a hill, and like you need to figure out what exactly is like going to continue to roll that boulder up a hill, or else it's going to like fall back on you. And so removing habits that would cause the ball to fall back on you is super important. That's something that I would definitely tell my younger self. And just patience, have faith in the work, and yeah, just don't quit, and just look to always improve, and eventually you'll see the reward of that.
To have absolutely no faith that you're going to become one of or the go-to e-com agency in the fitness space. What are you personally excited for, even this December, but for 2022, the new year that we're going into? Are there any, like, you don't have to say your goals, I mean, maybe you haven't even thought about them, but is there like any milestone, anything that gets you excited, anything that you're looking forward to?
Yeah, I think, for me personally, like I graduate university in this May, and so coming out of university, I want to be at the 50K a month mark. And I think that's definitely that's like my big goal. And I think I'm like really thinking about strategies to do that. And the way they get to like 10K a month is going to be really different from the way to get from 10K to 50K a month. So trying to figure out my strategies around that. And yeah, I mean, my main goal, I think my goal by December, which is funny, in August, when I just had that one client, was from August to December to have complete faith in my agency that I don't need to go look for a finance job, or I don't need to stress about working for someone else. So now I'm like, okay, I think I was talking to Antonio about this as well. Like, I have the faith now in myself that I can and capable of being self-employed and being an entrepreneur. Now let's scale that really high, and let's build a company that is serving a bunch of clients, impacting people. And then, come there, like your mentality is like, now you have the skill set on how to build a business. I'd love to get into e-commerce next 6 to 12 months. We'll see. I feel like I kind of over glamorize the process of like packaging orders at 3 a.m, but I really want to get into that as well. So yeah, I think scaling to 50K a month the next 6 to 12 months, and maybe even getting into another space would be super interesting.
Let's do it, man. I'm excited. I'm very excited for your growth, and I have absolutely no doubt that you'll get there. Any final comments? Anything that you want to leave the audience with?
Man, if you're at a spot where you're just 100% doubting yourself and 100% in a negative headspace, just have the patience to keep going. Like, just don't beat yourself up. There's no reason to beat yourself up. There's been people that have been less skilled than you, less gifted, that have made it where you want to be. And continue to just look for little improvements to improve your process. And I think the results will come. So, just get after it and don't stop.
Awesome, man. That's a wrap. That's a really, really fire interview. I want to acknowledge you for obviously taking the time out of your day, but also for chipping away every single day at it, for showing up, for your consistency and your constant development, and obviously your constant improvement over those strategies, over your agency, and your drive to become the number one in the fitness space. I think that's a very, it's very honorable when you focus on building a really cool business that adds value to a space that you also love, right? So it's a pretty cool thing.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jaime. I appreciate it.
Awesome, man. Well, obviously I'll see you on the calls, on the one-on-one calls. But yeah, it's been good, and we'll chat soon. Bye-bye, man. Take care.
Sounds good. See ya.
All right, so that's that for this fire interview with one of my students, Patrick. We covered a lot of interesting topics, so I really hope you enjoyed it. Now, if you're looking to get results like Patrick and you're looking to start or grow your agency well past the 10K month mark in record-breaking time, then you might be interested in my mentorship. Just like we did with Patrick here, the first thing that we do is we jump on a quick call. I keep the mentorship very tight-knit so I can give you that accountability, that one-to-one attention, which leads to pretty insane results. So there's going to be a link in the description for you to book in a time with myself and my team, and we can discuss further details, see if it'd be a good fit, and if it is, we can take it from there. And with that being said, hope everything's going well in your journey, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.